I've never believed in ghosts, but that all changed when I moved into my new flat in Sydney. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm from Sydney, Australia, and today I will be reading from a Reddit story. So let's jump right into it. It was about 2 a.m., and I was lying in bed trying to sleep when I heard what sounded like footsteps pacing back and forth in the room next door. Now I live in a modern high-rise building in the middle of Sydney. There are 6 flats on each floor, and mine is on the 4th floor. The walls are thin, but they're not paper. You can hear your neighbors if they're being loud, but this is the middle of the night. I couldn't see anything through the door or under it, but I could clearly hear someone pacing back and forth. It sounded like an old person shuffling along, but it was too regular to be someone walking around their flat. It sounded like someone was pacing around the perimeter of my room, only a meter or so from where I was lying. I told myself it was impossible and that there had to be another explanation. Maybe a cat, maybe pipes in the wall, anything but the truth. After a few minutes, the footsteps stopped and I actually managed to go to sleep. In the morning after, of course, not sleeping at all, I got up and went to work as per usual. When I came home, I tried not to think about the footsteps, but I couldn't help but listen intently for any sound while I was home. Nothing happened though, and I ended up going out again for dinner with friends. When I returned, it was well after midnight again. I was just getting ready to settle in when I heard the exact same footsteps start up again. They were coming from the same room. Now I knew I couldn't just lie in bed and listen to these ghostly footsteps all night. I had to do something. I opened the door and yelled out, "Hey," hoping that whoever was in there would respond. All I got for my trouble was a very loud bang on the wall as if someone had put their full weight against it. Now I was scared, but I wasn't going to let some invisible stalker get the best of me. I grabbed the poker from beside the fireplace and went back into my flat. I was debating whether I should call the cops when I heard the footsteps start up again. I crept towards the door and began knocking loudly and repeatedly. Each knock was met with a bang from the other side of the wall, as if the phantom resident was enjoying my discomfort. I continued pounding on the door until I heard what sounded like a muffled scream from behind the wall. Then everything went silent. The footsteps stopped, the muffled scream faded away, and I heard nothing else for the rest of the night. In the morning after, of course, not sleeping again, I got up and called the landlord. She said she would look into it and let me know what she found out. For the rest of the day, I kept listening out for the footsteps, but nothing happened. The next day, the landlord called me and said that there was no one living in the flat next door. According to her records, the flat had been empty for the past 6 months. At this point, I was both confused and terrified. How could someone be living in a supposedly empty flat? And why were they only active at night? I asked the landlord if she could have someone come and check the flat out for me. She agreed and sent someone around later that day. The maintenance man spent about half an hour checking all the cupboards and drawers and even lifted up the floorboards in one spot, revealing a hollow space underneath. He said he'd never seen anything like it before. He didn't find anyone or any sign of forced entry. He checked the adjoining wall between my flat and the one next door and said that there was no way anyone could be hiding over there. He looked puzzled, but suggested that it might have been an animal, perhaps a possum. However, he admitted that if that was the case, it was by far the noisiest possum he'd ever heard. And so we were back to square one with no answers, and me still petrified to go to sleep in case the footsteps started up again. One particularly chilly night, I woke up in the middle of the night and felt a strong draft from somewhere. I turned on the bedside lamp and saw that the window was wide open. Obviously, I slammed the window shut, making sure it was locked tight before getting back into bed. I assumed that the window must have been left open during the day by the cleaners and had closed on its own. I figured that whatever had gotten into my apartment earlier hadn't bothered coming back. Then I heard it again, the footsteps. They were closer than before, and they were accompanied by the distinct sound of dragging metal moans. I tried to keep calm, telling myself that it was just the wind and that it would pass soon. But as the sound grew louder, I realized that whatever was out there was coming for me. First, the door began to shake violently. Then the handle started to turn. I don't know how long I sat there frozen in fear, but eventually the shaking and the noise stopped. I stayed in bed until the morning, too afraid to get up and check. When the sun finally began to stream through my window, I got up and went to check the door. On the handle was a small scratch mark, as if something sharp had been dragged across it. Next to it on the floor was a single black feather. Shaken but relieved, I got ready for work, figuring that whatever had tried to get in was gone now. I had barely made it to the elevator when I heard the footsteps again. They were in the elevator with me. I pushed the button to go back up to my floor, but the footsteps kept coming. When I finally got to my floor, I saw that the numbers above the doors were slightly scratched off. Then I noticed the door to the flat across the hall had also been scratched. The scratching sound echoed in my ears as I fled to my apartment, locked the door, and collapsed on the floor leaning against it. I was hyperventilating and too afraid to move. I just sat there on the floor for hours until my friend came over. She helped me to calm down, and eventually we decided to tackle the problem head on. We checked all the windows and doors to make sure they were locked. Then we listened intently for any sound. Nothing happened. My friend stayed over that night and even slept in my bed while I slept on the floor. We were both exhausted from lack of sleep, and it wasn't until the next afternoon that I heard the footsteps again. This time they were closer than ever. I hid under my blankets and waited for whatever was out there to go away. It never did. Eventually, I started to panic, certain that I was about to die. Then suddenly the footsteps stopped. The silence was deafening, and I was too scared to move. Then I heard the door handle begin to turn. So I hope you enjoyed that terrifying tale. If you did, please leave a like, and if you want to hear more scary stories, stay tuned.